so I know I pulled you in with a bit of a spicy title, but I just want to say right off the bat that I'm not trying to make anyone mad and that I love all cymbals from all cymbal companies. But the setup today is that I was demoing these Sabian HHX Complex cymbals for West Coast Drum Shop next door, and I was thinking to myself as I was playing them, these are probably the best sounding Sabians, or at least my favorite Sabians that I've heard in a long, long time. And just to my ears, for my personal preference, although I love Sabian the company and I know they make amazing cymbals, their sonic signature has been my least favorite, just for what I'm looking for personally, until I started listening to these. So I thought it might be kind of interesting to pit these against what I normally use, which is typically Meinl, and just give sort of some thoughts and I guess a mini review on the HHX Complex line in general. Now, there are plenty of Meinl cymbals that I don't like the sound of, but on average, Meinl, I think, has the most cymbals that sound pleasing and interesting to my ear. And on the flip side, Sabian in the past, and to a lesser extent, Zildjian, has had less interesting or sounds that just don't jive as well with what I'm looking for. Now, of course, there are many exceptions to this. There are plenty of beautiful, amazing sounding Zildjian and Sabian cymbals, and a lot of my favorite artists play Zildjian and Sabian. So I don't inherently have a problem with either of their sonic signatures or the companies themselves. They just haven't really meshed with what I'm looking for. And I feel like recently both companies, I guess in the past few years, have come out with lines that sound maybe not more Meinl-ish to my ears, but they just seem to de-emphasize the things that I haven't liked about their cymbals in the past. And what I'm talking about is like AAs and even HHs and Zildjian A's and to a lesser extent A customs have all sounded sort of harsh in the mid-range or in the upper mids. And what I like a lot about these HHX complexes is that they seem to not be harsh at all. They really de-emphasize that mid-range that just comes across as abrasive to my ears. And they're still very dark with a really smooth top end. And what surprised me was that because they're called complex, usually complex or anything that's described as like esoteric or anything like that usually means that it's going to end up sounding trashy, whether that's for better or for worse is up to you. These are not at all that. These are very smooth sounding, very like traditional sounding, but without all that harsh mid-range and with a really, really smooth top end. That's what I'm hearing at least. And they really do sound like do anything cymbals. Like you could pretty much tackle any genre with these, whereas the cymbals that I typically use are maybe a little less flexible. I go for maybe more particular sounds. But what I decided to do today is take my, I guess, most normal sounding setup of Meinls, which is still a little bit weird. On the Sabian side, I've got the 15-inch hats, the 18 and 19-inch thin crashes, and then the 22-inch medium ride. And then for my Meinls, I have my hi-hats are a 16-inch traditional medium thin crash over a 16-inch extra dry thin crash, so a little bit of a weird combo there. A 19-inch Byzance traditional crash, a 20-inch Byzance brilliant medium crash, and a 22-inch tradition ride. So definitely not an apples to apples comparison. Some of the sizes are different, but like I said, it's my most normal sounding setup. And those are all cymbals that I have really carefully hand selected and just sound perfect to my ears. But again, it's my personal taste. So let's go back to back, and I'm just going to kind of loosely mess around with both different sets, and I'm curious to know what you hear. I'll check in at the end of the demo, but yeah, let's listen to them. All right, so you've heard both of them, and I wouldn't be surprised if more people preferred the Sabians just because they are a more traditional sound. Now, to my ears, I still definitely prefer the sound on the whole of the Meinls, which makes sense because I've been using them for years and I handpicked every single one. But, I mean, these Sabians would work unbelievably well, I feel like, for almost any session or any kind of gig you can think of. So let me know what you heard. Maybe you preferred mine. That would be flattering. Maybe you preferred these. That's fine. I don't take offense. But yeah, I thought this would be kind of a fun experiment. And I'd also be curious to know what are your favorite cymbals from your least favorite company. Like maybe Meinl is the company that you like the least in terms of cymbal sound. What's your favorite Meinl Byzance line, or with Zildjian or Istanbul or whatever it might be. So let me know, I'd be curious to hear. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.